Good evening. Just a reminder that everyone does have to click on a language at the bottom of the screen in order to hear the webinar. You can choose English or Spanish to hear the webinar in your preferred language this evening. Welcome. I am Sam Eigner-Trewergy. I am the commissioner here at EEC, and welcome to the December Conversation with the Commissioner. It's an opportunity for us to share the status of our reopening efforts, key changes in our guidance and in our work that we have been undergoing for the fall, and also to announce some exciting new initiatives and opportunities ahead of us to stay engaged with our planning and development of strategies and initiatives here at EEC. Tonight, we'll take an opportunity to share key updates across a number of areas, the recently released new playbook, as well as key changes and highlights from reopening and other progress across the Commonwealth. We're also very thrilled this evening to release an updated version of the Department's Strategic Action Plan, which was approved by our board back in March and reaffirmed as we came into the fall. But it has been revised in some critical ways to reflect the changing reality of all of our work through the pandemic. And we look forward to sharing with you tonight some opportunities to continue engaging with us and staying informed and informing us as we move ahead. First, I wanted to take an opportunity to walk through the playbook and that was released last week, and key changes that are designed to reflect the feedback we heard from our programs and our educators, as well as new guidance from Governor Baker and evolving information about the virus from our public health leaders. As we look at this, you can find it on our website, and it's replaced the previous playbook with key highlights listed in the front of areas where we have changed and continue to evolve the guidance to programs. I wanted to start and call attention to key additions to this, but I also wanted to keep in mind that one of the purposes of this playbook is to provide guidance and support, but also the flexibility each of you need and each of our programs and educators need as you're negotiating your own situation, your own health dynamics, your own family situation, and your own work status. So while we do set these as minimum standards, we want to make sure that you know that these are really conversations that you have between you and your employees, your family, if you're a family childcare, or the families you serve, in order to really be able to implement these in the way that best meets the needs of your program, the children, and their experiences in your facility. But I did want to call attention to these key additions, areas where we really are trying to be responsive to the evolving information we hear out from the field and knowing that you're grappling with in your communities. First, return to care and work protocols. We know that so many programs have a clear, we want to make sure that you all had a clear path to follow when you have a child or a staff member or a member of your household that either tests positive for COVID-19 or is identified as a close contact of someone who has tested positive for COVID-19. We hope that this guidance helps provide succinct and easy to follow understanding that you can use to make sure that you are understanding the public health implications of what you need to do. In addition, we have clear and simple scenarios for programs to use in different situations where a child, a staff member, a family childcare assistant or household member, or transportation driver tests positive for COVID-19 or is identified as a close contact. We wanted you to have the information and some guidance so you can effectively work with the public health professionals and make sure you're establishing any plans that may be unique to your situation or the situation of the individual who has been tested positive. They're also have clear guidance to help fill in the blanks of some of those most common questions we heard while you're waiting to hear back from our public health experts or understand the results of a test. Things like when to notify families or what to do about substitute care. We also have returned to many of our key licensing regulations, like using volunteers in programs. And we know that staffing has been a challenge for many of your programs. So we have tried to alleviate any restrictions on use of volunteers so you can be creative about trying to find staffing patterns that work for you. As long as you're following the COVID operational guidance and making sure that you are abiding by the enhanced COVID mitigation policies, we want to make sure you have all the flexibility you need to leverage every adult and staff member that may be in your building. In addition, we have extended our inactive status to make sure that if you aren't ready to open yet, you don't yet have to give up your license, and changing our policy in a way that you can remain inactive and have options in maintaining your reopening status throughout the COVID emergency. Finally, we have also returned to some of our licensing cleaning regulations, recognizing that while in certain situations targeted enhanced cleaning may be necessary, that we wanted to make sure that you knew that our regular cleaning protocols in childcare are sufficient for making sure that your environments are clean on a daily basis. I also wanted to highlight a key development that we know programs have been asking about the quality rating and improvement system. At this point this year, as we embark on revising and rejuvenating the QRIS, the Quality Rating and Improvement System, for implementation next year, we are not asking programs to participate or requiring programs to participate in the QRIS this year. Programs that do wish to continue in the benefits, we will maintain people's QRIS status if it is granted already. If you are in the middle of granting QRIS status, that will be an option for you to be able to continue on that work. But we will, for those of you that are interested in continuing or achieving the benefits provided with the QRIS, we'll be focusing on the Continuous Quality Improvement Plan in lieu of a QRIS, full QRIS evaluation. We hope that this simplified approach is helpful as you manage through a challenging year without requiring too many more administrative burdens. Over the course of the year, we will provide more information about how we will re-engage in the QRIS for next year. One of the things we hope you'll inform and talk to us about throughout the course of the year. Again, no one's QRIS benefits that are established will be eliminated, and if you are interested in continuing to engage in the QRIS, we encourage you to think about your continuous quality improvement plan and reach out to us on how you can work on that as opposed to the full QRIS process. I wanted to move on and talk about some good news in reopening. The Commonwealth is really leading across the country as states are seeing far less than we have seen of our programs reopen their doors as of the beginning of this year. With over 80% of pre-COVID programs open, and that representing almost 90% of pre-licensed capacity, we certainly see that this is a remarkable feat for the Commonwealth to have had so much return to the workforce, but also know that this is that many of our programs still struggle. And that 50% of our group programs say that they actually would not be able to open the full pre-licensed capacity due to a variety of different reasons, including being able to find qualified staff, transportation, and really the space requirements to be able to implement COVID-safe practices. At the same time, we see families utilizing childcare in different ways than they did pre-COVID. While many programs are still experiencing full or waitlisting families, they may see different ages showing up at their doors. And dependent on the region and the overall average enrollment, we are seeing that in general, we're seeing an estimated less than 65% of licensed capacity has reopened, and that attendance is even less than that, averaging just over 50%. So this is, of course, based on self-reported information, but we wanted to highlight that while our lens of programs reopening and the capacity they could possibly reopen to is not a full perspective of what we're seeing on the ground, and what we're seeing programs report in a much more anecdotal and program by program way. We know that the strains to operate programs right now are immense. The national NACCE, the National Association for the Education of Young Children, they recently did a survey that showed that over half of providers are losing money every day just to stay open. Our statewide survey responses totally back this up and report that our programs report that on a monthly basis, both family childcare and group and school age programs continue to operate at a loss and making it hard to sustain operations. We know that this mirrors many industries across the Commonwealth, but we also know that the critical infrastructure that childcare represents as we send the economy back into motion and work to recover the Commonwealth as the vaccine gets distributed. Nevertheless, we know that the resilience of educators and leaders of our early childhood field is evident every day. And we see that people are showing up and working harder, knowing that it's taking more staff resources just to serve fewer children along the way. And so as we look at this, we continue to try to find ways to support programs, and the recently past conference budget will offer us opportunities to invest in different ways in programs throughout the Commonwealth. We look forward to providing more details on that as the budget's finalized in the coming week, and we'll provide more information on what will be available and how we can be distributing that as effectively and efficiently as possible as we head into the new year. Excuse me. Next, I wanted to talk about our strategic action plan. Knowing where we have been through in the last 9 months of the pandemic, it's now with great excitement that we are releasing the updated strategic action plan that not only reintroduces our vision and mission for the Commonwealth, but it also looks at our current status of where we are coming through COVID and charts a new course for our partnership with programs and educators, and really on behalf of children, youth, and families across the Commonwealth. The guiding vision for this work is that children, youth, and families have an opportunity to reach their full potential now and in the future. And we know in our field all that that takes to help make sure that children are on the path for success and that families have the resources and support they need to achieve that success with their children. Our plan highlights 4 specific roles in the ecosystem. It talks about our system, making sure that we, EEC, lay the foundation for programs and educators, and making sure that we have the kind of system that can provide safe, affordable options that are the kind of options that families are seeking and need to support their children. Also making sure that in order to do that, we have to invest in the programs and educators that work with those children, youth, and families, and making sure that we are investing in the type of backbone and the type of trajectory that will make sure each of them are in a continuous quality improvement process. And simultaneously, we must increase opportunities for families to support their children in attaining economic mobility. And this reflects the role that early education and care plays both as a workforce support to ensure that families can go to work and stay focused and progress in their own career, but also as an early education strategy for young learners to make sure that children have the kind of supports they need to be on the path to success from the start and continuing into their early grades. So what does this take? Our plan, our action plan is organized around these 4 components with goals for each and supporting initiatives and strategies, many of which are well underway as we have endured the COVID crisis. Right now, I'd like to walk you through a little bit of progress on these updates, grounding us in where we've come and where we will be going. While EEC doesn't work often directly with children, youth, and families, they're always the ultimate beneficiary of everything we do, and our first thought when we make decisions supporting the field. So we've grounded ourselves in this work. Our most direct work with families is our subsidy system, and one of the things that we know we have ultimate control over is the cost and affordability of those subsidies to families. So we understand that this needs work to make sure that our subsidy system can both increase, is more affordable for families, as well as more accessible for those who need care in order to go to work or school. Our subsidy work is well underway. Obviously, through COVID, we have been able to adjust many of our subsidy policies in ways that have provided us understanding of how we can make our subsidies more accessible to families. We have been able to make many adaptations that we are looking to understand the impact of and where we might be able to sustain some of our subsidy criteria moving forward in order to continue achieving this goal of our strategic plan. And we know that our parent co-pays, which has been the subject of the last couple board meetings and a deep analysis with Urban Institute over the last many months. We are underway in understanding models and the impact that they would have for families, and look forward to presenting that to the board in early 2021 in a way that can show us how we can implement this and become an even more family-friendly system as we look to support families' access to childcare. It's also the subject of a survey that we'll launch tonight and after tonight's conversation, so that your input and guidance can continue to help inform our proposed approach. We also will launch this in the next year, a review of our subsidy regulations with efforts to simplify and make them more accessible for working families. Again, looking at the policies we've been able to implement during COVID and understanding where those policies might inform regulation changes that will streamline and make our subsidies more family friendly. We've learned so much through the COVID crisis, and even through what families need and the changing disruptions to employment, disruptions in care, as well as really how to support families to access these subsidies in different ways now that we have had to move to virtual engagement. We're also looking to analyze this impact and what this has meant for our subsidy access, looking at our subsidy access against the evolving population data, so that we can understand how our demand for subsidies across the Commonwealth is really meeting the demand of families as they go to work. This will help us inform a more responsive, agile subsidy system that really targets this capacity in areas that's needed most. But we know that childcare subsidies are just one part of care that families need to thrive. And beyond our subsidized childcare, we want to make sure that families have access to affordable resources that they need to support their children across the types of resources that families might need to access. Which means at the same time we look at our childcare tuition subsidies, we need to really focus on building our community capacity to serve families and ensure that children are on track to third grade success. That means families need resources, need access to the type of resources that support them in being their child's first and most important teacher, and building the kind of context for children that will ensure that we are providing the right interventions, the right resources, the right supports at the right time to meet the child's specific need. In order to do that, we really need to make sure that those resources are accessible within communities and that there's no wrong door for families as they try to navigate various systems in support of their unique child. We hope that these initiatives, this work are really tied together by a mutual understanding of what it means to be on track by third grade, what kind of community resources families need to be able to keep their children on track, and be able to understand the tools and the interventions that help garner those results that we're aiming to achieve for the Commonwealth. This work is just starting in our thought process, and we look forward to starting in earnest in early 2021, and will likely be launched at a board meeting and at a February conversation with the commissioner. As we move forward, the second pillar I want to highlight in our strategic plan is EEC's work with educators. And it's both targeted to streamline and improve our foundational entry points for educators to ensure that children and youth in their care are safe when they enter the field, and that they themselves have a seamless pathway in engaging with and supporting themselves in the workforce. And that the seamless approach is aligned with the types of professional development and scholarships that we are offering to support the implementation of their professional trajectory. We'll start in this around looking at our background record check operations and technology that has been under revision since for the last year. In line with the infrastructure systems that are really the priority for the strategic plan, making sure we have technology and operational capacity to meet the needs of the field. We've started by revising the regulations that passed the EEC board at the December meeting that were designed to alleviate some of the regulatory burdens that stopped operations, that stopped us from achieving efficient operations. We've also continued to improve how programs and educators interact with EEC technology in envisioning a new way of organizing the BRC technology and in a way that will achieve far more streamlined engagement from educators as they are seeking employment at programs. The changes to the BRC policies and protocols will begin shortly now that we have finalized regulations, and will be conducted in partnership with the field. We expect to be asking more questions on the background record check policies and procedures as we move forward into 2021, now that we've had an opportunity to make the regulations official. At the same time, as we make sure that that entry point to the field, we eliminate barriers in that entry point to the field, we also need to make sure that we are setting a clear path that really supports the workforce in being prepared and well supported and climbing a professional trajectory. And this starts with a database, a registry that allows us to track and to support the workforce across time. A single point of truth that will make sure that educators can store their information and help make sure that that follows them regardless of the role that they are in. I met so many educators through the fall and spring as I was still allowed to go and meet people. As we were traveling around, who would tell me about various roles that they've held over the years. While some educators may stay as a family childcare for decades, others may go in and out of family childcare, group and school age, maybe home visiting or other things in our field. And we want their experience and their competency to come with them across those different experiences, and not to make it so locked into the one role that they played that we don't honor and make transferable the expertise that they are gaining along the way. So we expect that this will replace our current technology, and that will continue to be designed and be ready for implementation over the course of the rest of this fiscal year, the first half of 2021. But what we do with that registry is really what matters, and really the innovation in our strategic plan. Because what we need is a clear, accessible, transferable, and stackable credential system for EEC educators to make sure that their competencies are validated as they gain experience, as they gain professional development, and as they gain that expertise. And this validation has to be able to follow the person across those roles and jobs, across geographies as they move from one part of the state to the other. And while we've been thinking deeply about what this might look like through the fall, we will soon begin engaging with programs and educators and define what we actually need to achieve in operations of a new credential. With this evening's launch after this conversation, we have a survey that asks several questions for you about how we might honor or validate experiences that many of our educators in the field already have, and as a real critically important component of building a competency-based credential that honors all of the hard work that our field has been putting in over the years. Finally, we want to make sure that that credential is aligned and supported with our strategies to support educator advancement. In making sure that our partners in higher ed and other professional development providers are all understanding that trajectory of competency development in a way that ensures that our investment in professional development and higher education helps educators climb a clear pathway in the workforce that is validated by EEC. We look forward to many more conversations on educators, but I also want to turn now to programs. And ensuring that through the COVID crisis, our program sustainability has become ever more urgent with every passing month. And our plan has really, this is where an area where we have adapted our plan and our efforts to make sure that we are responsive to the pressures and the challenges that programs are facing in the field, while really still making sure we're keeping an eye on that long-term goal. Next year, we will launch a quality improvement rating system that will really re-envision a backbone for program quality. Creating a unified definition of quality that we can use to target program support and tier financial incentives. This definition that we will continue to co-create together will grow from the great work the field did before I arrived to really conceptualize what it looks like to think differently about a QRIS. We know we have much more further detail to think about in terms of our family childcare and out of school time definitions of quality. And tonight's launch does include an additional survey to help gather more information from you on what you might need to be prepared for this transition. At the same time, we know a definition of quality that we may work for the future is really, really stymied by the program financing challenges we're confronting today. At the same time, when we work on the definition of quality, we must work on our program financing structures that can really help support operational costs in a more sustainable way. We know nothing has been proven more unreliable in COVID than the per child funding model that childcare has been dependent on, whether that's through private pay or subsidized tuition models. All of the dollars follow a per child model that makes it very difficult for us to have a sustainable program financing, particularly in a time where parents are making very difficult decisions about enrolling in childcare during real critical moments. So when we look at childcare program sustainability in particular in this work, really thinking about how we can use the learnings from this time to try to pilot a different model. At the November board meeting, we reported on work to explore a different kind of financing model that would look at a number of classrooms or a family childcare program. And really thinking about program stability as an investment as part of that public investment, not just alleviating the financial burdens on families as they are trying to afford childcare. But we know that that moving away from a per child cost will require us to define those quality expectations and ensure that the investment in our programs is also building the public good we need for our children and families. And part of this work really is around thinking about how we implement a continuous quality improvement approach through every bit of our work with programs, everything from program licensing to supports, as well as through that program financing. And so really thinking about the continuous quality improvement plan and understanding how that can be a linchpin of our entire system, a living, breathing document that does not necessarily, that is inclusive of other things necessary to achieve quality improvement, but does not sit on a shelf, but becomes part of an active conversation that a program is having with EEC. We know that this will take a lot of work to understand how this can be worked into licensing and monitoring conversations, as well as the type of program support conversations you may be having with either outside entities or those of us at EEC. I also want to highlight, while a lot of this work has focused on our work in the early education and care space, I also want to highlight that part of our work with residential and placement programs continues to be looking at our regulations and our approach to understanding where and how EEC's licensing role can really be leveraged to provide program stability and support, and where we need to refine or revise some of our functions in a way that can be more oriented towards the kind of work that is happening in the field on a daily basis. Finally, through the COVID crisis, we understand that no program can do it alone. And one of the most critical investments that we need to make right now is through the mental and behavioral health supports that both families and staff members need with new urgency. We are committed to ensuring that our investments in mental and behavioral health consultants are responsive to the evolving needs of your program, and to make sure that we are identifying and supporting additional wraparound comprehensive services that families need, and looking at building statewide investments that programs can rely on to make sure that they aren't having to do it all alone, that there are those resources accessible for them to call on to help support the children and families in their care. Which leads us back to really thinking through the final pillar. So I know this one says children, youth, and families at the top of it. It should definitely say this is our systems pillar. So really our goal here is that none of this is possible without the operational improvements that you've all called on us to make as EEC, as a system, and as a steward of your public investment. We have continued to learn so much about what we need to do to create a more user-centric EEC, and COVID has tested not only the limits of our capacity, but also to make sure that that we are meeting the needs of the field at the pace that and the urgency that you all need. These improvements definitively began this fall with the development of a technology plan, of integrating, understanding where the technology is limiting our ability to move quickly, and creating an experience that can really focus on how people interact with EEC, and really thinking about an implementation next year that helps us alleviate some of the most difficult areas to navigate in our technology with an investment in the kind of user-friendly systems that we know you deserve. We're also making sure that we are talking together differently across our units. We know that many of you have had to engage with different functions in EEC and have gotten different information that may or may not align. That we want to make sure that we are building our routines of collaboration internally. to make sure that if you're waiting on something that involves multiple units, that we are working together internally to help solve your challenges, remove barriers for educators and programs, and ensure that any blocks in the system don't hold up the critical care for children and families that you all are working to provide. We know that we need to work in a more integrated way if we are going to truly be user-centric in how we reorient ourselves to supporting the field. Finally, we also know that many of our regulations are outdated or conflicting, and we have quickly launched into the work of a comprehensive review of our regulations. As you notice, this began with a review of our background record checks regulations, which have finished and been approved by the board. We also know that for our background record check regulations, while the regulations are short, the policies need further engagement, so we continue to move across that next. We're now moving into our licensing regulations, which are the subject of another survey launching tonight, which I'll explain in just a moment, for feedback and guidance from you. We also hope that at this early stage of the process that you'll really help direct our attention to those areas that need the most revision. And soon we'll move into our enforcement and our subsidy regulations as well. And these regulations will be accompanied by policy and protocol overhauls that really result in a new, streamlined, simplified, user-friendly approach to all of our work, our licensing, our investigations, our background record checks, our subsidy functions, as well as our work with educators and children and families. So finally, how will you continue to learn about all of this wonderful work that is underway? Well, we know that there are so many challenges right now in being able to navigate what is the daily operational burdens that of operating in it at the community level in the midst of a pandemic. We also know that you want a chance to inform and be engaged in this work. So our final announcement of the evening is the launch of the engagement portal for our strategic action plan. This will be the place you can check back regularly, the one-stop shop where you can find all of the elements of our plan, all of the engagement opportunities to inform initiatives, and stay on top of the work streams that will make up the components of these pillars. You can also navigate from the site of the EEC's website, which is pictured right here. Simply click on the strategic action plan image on our homepage on the left-hand side here, and follow the steps to find the engagement portal to download the full strategic plan. We want you to share some features. We want to share some features of the site with you so that you know what to look for. In addition, we want to make sure that we keep having more information about the initiatives we've just discussed, and also a place to find out of when and how to partner with us on the next phase of the strategic planning development. Under engagement opportunities, there's a list of upcoming webinars and live engagement sessions. Right now, we have regional town halls scheduled for January and licensing regulation feedback sessions in February. You can register for these directly on the website that we just mentioned. I want to highlight that many of your questions about specific program or specific program implementation or around the playbook itself, we anticipate to be answered in the town hall, the regional town halls, once you've had an opportunity to digest the information and understand how it might play out in your community. So we encourage you to sign up there and make sure that you are getting your questions answered, and we will make sure that questions from all of those are elevated and put back out to the field as we see themes of where people need clarification. But we don't want you to wait until 2021 to hear, for you to use your voice. We have 4 surveys that I alluded to tonight throughout the presentation that have posted on this site, where you can find an opportunity to give us some of this really critical feedback and inform our next stage of development in the work. The surveys are designed so you can just answer one short 5-question survey if you're interested in just a single initiative. For example, if you just want to weigh in on parent copays, you can just fill out that survey. However, you are welcome to engage in across the work and making sure that you can also take one single long form survey if that is easier for you. We want to highlight that this will evolve on a weekly and monthly basis through the early 2021. And as these initiatives shape up and as our teams across the agency have developments and thoughts to bring to you, you'll see these highlighted in this site. So please keep up with this and let us know if there are things that we need to be taking into account. There's lots of opportunities to engage and want to make sure you know about the progress along the way. So again, thank you so much for attending tonight, for your commitment to our shared vision, and mostly to the children and youth and families of the Commonwealth. We look forward to our ongoing conversations and make sure that you're with us and helping drive and inform the things that we are doing every step of the way. Mostly though, I just want to reiterate my consistent message of gratitude. As we have been able to focus on what the future of this field holds and needs and where the Commonwealth can continue to be a leader as the country grapples with recovering this field after a pandemic. I cannot reiterate enough I cannot appreciate enough the partnership, the welcoming, the innovation, the creativity, the problem solving, the tenacity, and really just all of the wonderful assets that each and every one of you bring to the field. We are so lucky in Massachusetts to have such a committed, dedicated field, and I hope that this strategic action plan and the engagement help make sure that we are leveraging all of your expertise and experience, all of your commitment and passion to really help drive and define not just the high level mission and vision that's in our strategic plan, but the pathway and the roadmap that we need to get there. So thank you so much. Thank you for your continued partnership. Thank you for your continued leadership, and thank you for your continued ear and participation. Is with that, I will wish you a very happy and healthy and safe holiday. Please don't forget to wear your mask and be nice to each other, and really looking forward to continue engagement in 2021. Thank you so much for being here. May you all find something this holiday season that brings you joy and continued engagement as we head into the next year. Have a great evening.